Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
This is oh so true. Political correctness is a doctrine fostered by a delusional, illogical minority and rabidly promoted by an unscrupulous mainstream media. Woo, do I agree with that. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Call in, call in. Good morning, good morning. And a good morning to you and yours. I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, and of course brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations telling you to get ready for winter driving, and along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them at 734-6969. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Hi, Zeb.
I know who this is, and I want to wish you a belated one-day happy birthday late. Abby, how are you? It's good to have you on the program.
Good, how are you, Zeb?
I am peachy, and I'm going to talk to you just a little bit, but go ahead and give us the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Abby, now yesterday was a big day for you. I think you said you turned 14. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, now, yesterday your dad, a great, great guy, brought you by the house to wish Deanne and I a happy anniversary. And then your dad said he was going to take you shopping and let you turn you loose with the credit card. Did you have a good time?
Yeah.
Well, listen, God bless you. You are a very pretty young lady, and I wish you the best. I want to be your, let's see, how did I put that yesterday? I want to be your adopted grandpa, okay?
Okay.
All right. Take care. God bless. Thank you.
Thanks, Zeb. Bye.
That is one of the nicest young ladies anywhere, anytime, and her dad, they stopped in yesterday to wish Deanne and I a very happy anniversary. Our anniversary was yesterday, 46 years, and God bless Deanne, the greatest. Love you, dear. God bless. My goodness sakes, we got to get going with the weather. Wheels of sand. Come on, Zeb. Come on, Zeb. The weather brought to you by K&R Rental, 256 South, 300 west of Hayburn. Number to call Roger and the crew, 678-3122. Open Monday through Friday, 7 to 5:30. Saturday, 7 to 2. They've got all the tools and equipment for any job you've got to get finished. And you got questions? They've got the answers on how to help you with the best of what you need. K&R Rental, 678-3122. Right now, here's the weather.
Here's your weather forecast as we saddle up and ride again for this week. Today, it's going to be a nice one. Mostly sunny skies, a little bit on the breezy side, but we are expecting a high of 61 tonight. That's all going to change. We do have a 50% chance of rain showers in the forecast for this evening with a low of 35 tomorrow. That could carry over at least in the morning hours. 20% chance of showers is what they're calling for. Hopefully that's going to burn off by tomorrow afternoon. Mostly sunny skies, high of 48. Mostly clear for tomorrow night with a low of 29 by Wednesday. Partly sunny skies, high of 55. More rain showers for Wednesday evening. with a low of 37. That's your weather for Zev at the Ranch.
Oh, Gina does a great job on the weather, and thank you very much. Right now, we want to say thank you to K&R Rental. They offer all their rental tools and equipment for both long and short term. So by golly, get a hold of them today and get the information you need on the tools you need for your job that you're working on. K&R Rental, 256 South, 300 west of Hebron, 678-3122. Holy cow, good morning, good morning. Yes, our anniversary yesterday. We had a wonderful day. There goes my lovely bride down the hall right now. And thank you to all the good folks out there that sent us cards and well wishes and telephone calls. Thank you very, very much. Later on this morning at 9:30, we're going to start our tribute to Veterans Day due to the fact that I wasn't on Friday. And we are having some wonderful people come by our studio to be on the air in the studio talking about our veterans and Veterans Day. So I'm looking forward to that this morning at 9:30. I want to also say thank you to Daryl's Cleaners. Hello, Kevin and Cindy. My goodness sakes, of course, you can do anything. You can clean anything, and that's been proven when I take all my rumply crumplies in there, and they come back looking brand spanking new. Hey, by the way, don't forget they can waterproof tents and also waterproof clothing, so if you're still got a hunting trip planned, you better take them in there. And by the way, if you're coming back from your hunting trip, be sure and take your sleeping bags in there and get them clean. Get rid of all the Cheetos and the salsa and everything else, okay? Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Absolutely the best. By the way, too, when I talk about the best, I've got to also take a little bit of time and tell you about Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, open at 7:30 in the morning till 5, Monday through Friday. And they've got all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. I want to tell you that right now, you heard the forecast. It's going to change. It's going to drop off the table here in the next couple of days. You better make sure that your furnace is running efficiently with clean air filters, and they have them for you at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-0459. The national anthem protests are still happening, and I just can't believe that on a weekend where we celebrated Veterans Day, that these very low-classed, and I mean these words, I will never back up, I will never apologize, these very low-classed, overpaid, underworked, so-called athletes are protesting, and it's a pathetic movement. I know that it has been minimized somewhat. Many teams have applied the pressure. Many athletes realized they were headed down the wrong road, but it's still happening. Caller, I'll be right there. But the point I want to make is, did you hear the news during the 8 o'clock break with CBS? GQ Magazine has plastered on the front cover of their magazine the Citizen of the Year, and GQ Magazine named the Despicable Colin Kaepernick, the person that started this fiasco in the first place. Unbelievable. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. I was starting to have a good day until you just said that last statement. But I do want to wish you and Deanna a happy anniversary, because that's really a landmark. And another thing I want to thank you for is for making this lunch brunch on the 16th. In honor of our anniversary of 56 years. Thank you so much.
Oh, it was absolutely predestined, I'll tell you. No, we are. And remind me again Thursday so that we can give you a special tribute at Lunch Bunch. I've got a great memory, but it's diminishing. But I really want to congratulate you and Nancy on, 56 years coming up on this Thursday. God bless you.
Yes, I think I'm going to make it.
Well, good for you. And I'm 10 years behind you, but Keith, you and Nancy have been just really great people, great friends, supporters of Lunch Bunch and all the other activities. And I'll say this, thank you, and again, God bless.
Oh, you're so wonderful. Give Deanne a hug.
I will. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Yeah, yesterday we celebrated our anniversary by going to church early in the morning and then coming home, excuse me, and we had a roast beef and cheese sandwich, and we went over to my son-in-law's and we roped and sat by the fire later afternoon. It was a good day. We had a great time with the grandkids and everything, and it was really funny yesterday. Here at my place, before I left and drove 8 miles over to Nick and Toby's, the wind was blowing here, and I'm going to tell you what, straight up, it was chilly. I had on a lot of clothes, and I was saddling my horse, and I said, I think I'm going to call Toby and see maybe if they haven't changed their mind. So I called her up on the phone, and I says, hey, sis, are you guys still roping? Well, yeah. What's the matter? And I said, well, nothing. It's just the wind was blowing here, and it was kind of half chilly. And she says, the wind's blowing. And anyway, we drove 8 miles, 8 little miles, and it was absolutely the most perfect day. No wind, sunshine. I couldn't believe it. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. By the way, we're going to be at Denny's restaurant this Thursday for Lunch Bunch. Yes, we are. And we got a lot of people we want to say thank you to for our gift certificates. And they include, I'll read them off, Walmart, along with Smith's Food, Handsome Mortuary, Stokes, and, of course, our good old buddy Doug Martin. And we're going to be over at Denny's restaurant, 611 North Overland and Burley. The best of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, anytime, all the time at America's Diner. It is delicious. You're going to love the food, and the people are so nice. So get on over there anytime you want to Denny's restaurant. And they've got another location, too, at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Denny's restaurant, America's Diner. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'd like to hear from you. I was telling you a little bit about what was been going on in the news. The Democrats, which I will refer to as Democrats, they can't move ahead. They can't. It's not in their mental makeup right now. They just can't move ahead. They can't do anything for their constituents. They can't make anything better for the nation. They can't organize as a party and show people that they are deserving of any future vote. All they want to do is stick in their manure-filled ditch and keep going after Donald Trump, trying to discredit him. Nothing on the betterment of the country or themselves. And I'll stand behind that statement. You take Chuck Schumer, please take Chuck Schumer, and Pelosi and Clinton and all the Democrats. They are bent on a Russian collusion. They are bent on many fake news stories. They're bent on the hatred of Trump. They won't do anything. They're just bent on getting rid of this president and this administration. And the laughable and distorted news about Donald Trump. I have been following, and I would be very honest and forthright if I thought that there was something that needs to be reported about the Republicans and or Trump and his administration. I've tried to be fair and balanced. I think the Republicans, I'll just back up a little bit, have done zero with the control of the House, the Senate, and the Oval Office to get things done for the American people. I am not laying that at the feet of Donald Trump. I'm laying it at the House and the Senate because they are laughably not doing anything, and they've been very inept. Okay, that being said, the news on his trip to Asia, I got to be very honest with you, I think Donald Trump has done an outstanding job. I think he's done an outstanding job of looking and sounding presidential with leadership. And I think it's been very successful. I think he's let world leaders know that he is in charge. And you have to forget, really, you have to forget and omit some of the stupidity that's put out in front of the public with the media, like Jennifer Rubin, she writes for the Times News. Yeah, go figure that. And also former CI Director John Brennan. Brennan came out with one of the dumbest statements I've ever heard. He said, well, Donald Trump is afraid of Putin. I did not see any of that, and I don't think you did either. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. I would love to talk to you, so give us a jingle. By the way, also want to remind you, coming up on the 18th and 19th, this weekend, quality comes first with a great big bull and female sale at the Molson Angus and Hereford Ranch. It's up there at 3135 Elmore Road between Parma and Fruitland. This is a ripping good sale. Going to be a dandy. A large selection of stout, rugged, range-ready bulls, and they got a whole bunch of 30 head of fall yearling bulls, and they've got a lot of Angus females for this sale. The preview is going to be on Saturday the 18th, and that's going to be a display all day long. And then on Sunday the 19th, the big sale. Tri-tip dinner at noon, sale to follow at 1. All these animals have been vaccinated and ready for shipment at the Molson Angus and Hereford Ranch. You can call Josh for directions at 208-739-0725. Excellent sale up between Parma and Fruitland. Big sale. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, I had a call last, let's see, what day was it before my phone went on the fritz? I think it was Friday. And a lady said, I really enjoy you talking about Pomerelle Place, a place for senior living. And I said, well, thank you. And she says, it's really stirred some thoughts that we need to watch out. And she was mentioning her mom and everything. And seniors that live alone, the isolation, and, of course, the safety hazards and the potential of injuries and everything, and not taking care of themselves properly with the right nutrition or even taking their medicine. You need to check it out today. Pomerelle Place, a place for senior living at 1301 Bennett Street in Burley. The number to call and get information, 677-8212. Pomerelle Place, a place for senior living. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to let you know some real feelings of animosity, and it comes right down to hatred as to what's going in this country right now. And it's being perpetrated by various media people, like in this case, the New York Times, and many of the blacks in leadership. And I'm going to talk to you about that in just a moment. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning again.
Yes.
That you must have been reading my mind, because what you were saying about President Trump is exactly what I was thinking. You know, when he was walking side by side by Putin, he did the right thing by just merely asking him, and the guy denied it, and he accepted that denial and went on about the business of the day. What good would it have done for him to throw a little tizzy right there in front of everybody else and call him names and everything else? No, he did the right thing, don't you think?
Absolutely, and I'll tell you something, all the Democrats out there that want to sit there and criticize me, and Wheels, we got just a touch of feedback if you'd watch that just a little bit. I'm going to come out and say this. It wasn't Trump that sat there on a dais and said to another Russian envoy, hey, after I get elected, I'll have more flexibility to work with Vladimir Putin. It was Obama. And I'm telling you what, I am so sick and tired of a single-edged sword. It should be a double-edged sword. The Democrats and all the liberals know that what they had in the office was the worst presidency this country has ever seen. I like and I very much respect what Donald Trump has done on this trip, and I think anybody that would criticize him and tear it apart, they're a dimwit.
And one of the worst critics is this James Clapper, who came on CNN and said those hateful things about Trump. You know, that he did, you know, that he's in collusion with Trump. That word collusion is really wore out. I think they need to quit using it, because collusion means not to compromise, but it don't mean anything real bad, does it?
Listen, let me tell you something. There's never been a presidency that I know of, and I think that you can relate to any time in our lifetime, that didn't personally have the word collusion connected to it because of trying to work with other governments and other administrations. I am sick and tired of the liberal sleaze. That's what it is. It's a cesspool of manure-filled ditches the Democrats are going to stay on and try to float their boat on because they don't have any party or platform politics that are going to make this country better.
I remember the trip that Obama made, similar to that, and he made America look absolutely stupid. I mean, made us look like the worst country in the world. He never did ever do anything.
That's right.
That was nice. Like the time he met with Netanyahu at the White House, he got up and went to dinner and left Netanyahu just sitting there
in the kitchen.
What kind of guy was this?
No, I agree with you, Keith. I appreciate your points as always. Thank you very much for calling back, man. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
All right, sir. You know, there is a job, or there are certain jobs that you don't want to do. No, you don't want to do that. You don't want to go out and pump your septic tank. You don't want to go out and clean your sewer and sink drain lines. Ooh, no. I know some people that will. Dino Septic Service. That's right. They are there. Fast, fair, friendly service, and you can call them in Rupert at 436-6526 or in Burley 678-1638. I'm telling you, septic inspections, liquid waste removal, and like I said, septic tanks, pump, they work for us. They'll work for you. These are really good people with that big truck that says, smells cargo on the way. Dino's Septic Service in Rupert. You give them a call today. I'm telling you, they do the job that we don't want to do. It's the truth, too. Hey, hang on. I also got to remind you about our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Oh, these are such good people. The best of physical therapists, and Nick Greenwell heads up the team, and I'm telling you what, they've got all the exercises. They've got that hydrotherapy pool, the only one of its kind in the area, and believe me, I've walked a gazillion miles in the bottom of that, rehabbing my leg, and they have done a wonderful, wonderful job. They can help you get back to being you. Call for an appointment, 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Really good folks. I want to come back after we give away some cookies, and I want to talk to you. I want to ask you one simple question. And it's not the cookie question, it's another question. And it regards illegal aliens here in the United States. And something I noticed over the weekend. And I got to ask you about it, so stay tuned. Right now, I am going to give away a dozen delicious, absolutely fantabulous cookies from Sophie's Chatterbox at 530 East Street in Rupert. Oh, my goodness. The best of bakery items, the best of a great restaurant. All you have to do is stop over at 530 East Street today, Sophie's Chatterbox on the square on Rupert. And here is the question. It's an easy one this morning. The first person that can call me at 436-2244 and answer this will win a dozen cookies. On the Lone Ranger TV show, what was the name of Tonto's horse? This is an easy one. On the Lone Ranger TV show, what was the name of Tonto's horse? Call me at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. On the Lone Ranger TV show, what was the name of Tonto's horse? Quickly, give me a call. Fast. Go to the phone. Run. First-time callers, please, for a dozen cookies from Sophie's Chatterbox. Give us a call quickly. While I am waiting for your call, no, I'll just wait for your call. I'm not going to do anything else till I get it. So come on, give me a jingle. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Oh, that's the easiest question I've asked in at least a month. What was the name of Tonto's horse? Please call me quickly at 436-2244. Whoa, good morning. You're on the air. What is the answer?
I believe it was Scout.
And what is your name?
Don Lee.
Is this Don Lee that I know from Lunch Bunch?
Yes, it is.
All right, now listen here, Donald. If you get sugar cookies, plain sugar cookies with no frosting, you got to bring at least 3 or 4 of those that are left over to Lunch Bunch because I love sugar cookies. You are the winner, and congratulations, it was Scout.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, God bless you, man. Thanks. What a nice man right there, Don Lee. Thank you. Wins the cookies. And the name of Tonto's horse was Scout. There you go. What you say, Kimosabi? Go get Scout, Tonto. Okay. Anyway, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, this past week on Friday, here's the deal I want to ask you about. There were literally thousands of illegal aliens, now follow me on this, marching on the Capitol in Washington, D.C. And they're demanding more rights here in the United States. Now, right there, if you'll stop, class, and study the aforementioned statement, thousands of illegal aliens marching on Washington, D.C., demanding more rights. Well, my first impulse, as I watched this news story unfold, was to sit there and say, if they're here illegally, why isn't ICE there with about maybe 900 paddy wagons and arrest all of them and arrange for deportation? And, secondarily, what rights are they marching for? I mean, a lot of people on the left are going, oh, yeah, you know, this is great. Those illegal aliens were marching on Washington, D.C., demanding more rights. What? Stop the bus, Gus. Maybe you agree that they have rights. I'd like to know which ones. Maybe you agree that they should be here in this country. I'd like to know why. And why should we be so supportive of them in not only politics but also financially? But my goodness sakes, if they're illegal aliens and they're trespassing on this country, the United States, they should be arrested. They've committed a illegal act, and yet they're demanding, I have to chuckle because it's almost funny, they're demanding more rights? Oh, I need a caller to call and help me understand this, please, quickly, at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I just scratched my head on this. This is how stupid our country has become. Barry Equipment and Rental, sales, service, and parts, and they've got 3 locations to serve you on South Lincoln and Jerome, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Hello, Juan. And they've got all the Bobcats. They've got here a Bobcat, there a Bobcat, everywhere a Bobcat over at Barry Equipment and Rental. And new and used, all shapes and sizes, for sale or rent. I mean, the list goes on. Equipment rentals, retail equipment sales, they can help help you get the job done right with all the equipment they have at Berry Equipment and Rental. Jerome, Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Berry Equipment and Rental. Really, really sharp people. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call if you would, please. Let's see, what else have we got here? I told you about Colin Kaepernick on the cover of GQ magazine as the Citizen of the Year. That's really repulsive to me. And then this story. Oh, boy, this one really, and I did some research thanks to my lovely bride, and I have the entirety of this editorial. I'm going to share parts of it with you here in just a moment. But first of all, caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Just talking about rights, what rights is it they have? I mean, there will always be human rights, and that's what we have fought around the world for people's human rights, and eliminated slavery here in this country. But when the rights that they're talking about, it seems like they're just looking for hand-me-downs, gimme, gimme, gimme.
Yeah, and let me ask you a question, sir. Let's you and I go down to a travel agency today, and let's buy a ticket and let's go to Iraq, or let's go to Iran, or let's go to Pakistan. And let's go there and check into the hotel, and then the next day we're going to carry some placards and we are going to demand certain rights from the Pakistani government. How far do you think that's going to go, my dear friend?
It won't go far at all. It'll probably go nowhere. It'll be like a brick wall.
Yeah, with our nose into the brick wall.
Yeah.
But see, this is the thing in this country. The liberal left is trying to persuade our society that you and I and others, we're an abnormality of people because we don't agree with illegal aliens coming into this country and demanding rights. They demand this. They demand better housing. They demand all kinds of financial aid and everything. And I sat there when I saw this story and I said, where's ICE? Where are the arresting officers to put these illegal aliens in jail and then deport them?
Yeah. Like we say, the rights that they're looking for aren't rights at all. They're just, what? Give me this, give me that.
Yeah.
We all have a right to work for what we want, but we don't have a right to take from everybody else without working for it.
Amen. I want to thank you for your call this morning. God bless you, sir. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I just absolutely am appalled that we've got to this stage where people that have broken the law to be here are blatant and in your face to stage a protest at the nation's capital, and everybody knows they're illegal and have committed a crime to be here, but yet they're demanding more rights. You got to scratch your head on that one. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. The New York Times carried an editorial by and listen to my words, this is true, a Negro racist, that basically said in this 5-page diatribe that don't let your children, he's telling other Negro families, don't let your children associate with whites because of the election of President Donald Trump as president. I'm not making this up. It was in the New York Times. I found it to be one of the most racist and dividing stories that I have ever read. It was written by a guy called Ikao Yanka. Seriously, I'm not making that up. And the headline was, "Can my children be friends with white people?" I'm going to give you some of the paragraphs of hate that this despicable editorial had in the New York Times. Donald Trump's election has made it clear that I will teach my boys the lesson generations old, one that I, for the most part, nearly escaped. I will teach them to be cautious. I will teach them to be suspicious. And I will teach them distrust. Much sooner than I thought I would, I will have to discuss with my boys whether they can truly be friends with white people. And then he goes on and listen to this hatred and vileness that's being put out. History has provided little reason for people of color to trust white people in this way, and these recent months have put in the starkest relief the contempt with which the country measures the value of racial minorities. And then he goes on to continue, and he says, as against our gauzy national hopes, I will teach my boys to have profound doubts that friendships with white people is at all possible. This is unbelievable. If a white person, Caucasian, had written a story as bad as this, an editorial, first of all, I dare say I don't think there'd be any newspaper in the country that would carry it. It would get thrown into File 13 and called white racism. But the New York Times puts this in their paper. And he goes on, and I'm picking and choosing some of the paragraphs of hatred right here. Mr. Trump's bruised ego invents outrageous claims of voter fraud, not caring that this rhetoric was built upon dogs and water hoses set on black children, and even today the relentless effort to silence black voices. His macho talk about law and order does not keep communities safe and threatens the very bodies of the little boys I love. Wow. Wow. Trump's rhetoric was built upon dogs and water hoses set on black children. Where and when did this happen with Donald Trump? It didn't. And then he goes on to say that they're trying to silence black voices. Where and when did this happen? The accusations and the absolutely vile rhetoric from these people is becoming very apparent that they want to divide, destroy, and totally dismantle the United States of America. And when the New York Times is an advocate of this kind of filth and vile, it tells you how low, how absolutely low the media will go and is going to hurt this administration. Calls welcome, 436. Surely you've got an opinion. Come on, give me a call at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'm going to do a weather forecast, and then I want some calls. Come on, folks. You're the greatest audience in the world. I want to tell everybody about Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids with Dr. Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology. She is so good. She studied 8 years to get her doctorate, and if anybody knows about sound and hearing or hearing loss, believe me, there is none better. Dr. Christine Pickup at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. I said audiology. I hope it didn't come out real clear. And I urge you to give them a call and make a hearing screening appointment. 312-0957. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather forecast as we saddle up and ride again for this week. Today, it's going to be a nice one. Mostly sunny skies, a little bit on the breezy side, but we are expecting a high of 61 tonight. That's all going to change. We do have a 50% chance of rain showers in the forecast for this evening with a low of 35 tomorrow. That could carry over at least in the morning hours. 20% chance of showers is what they're calling for. Hopefully that's going to burn off by tomorrow afternoon. Mostly sunny skies, high of 48. Mostly clear for tomorrow night with a low of 29 by Wednesday. Partly sunny skies, high of 55. More rain showers for Wednesday evening. with a low of 37. That's your weather for Zephyr the Ranch.
Thank you very much, Gina, and brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. They're right behind the Minidoka Hospital across from the emergency room, and I urge you to make a hearing screening today. Call them at 312-0957. Caller, thank you. You're a dedicated listener. What's on your mind?
I was just thinking, Zeb, I think President Trump's been in there about a year now.
Yep.
And when I wean some lambs off around here, within 2 or 3 days they're done whining. And I'm kind of just thinking about what you're talking about today. These people got to get back to work.
You know, let me ask you something, Earl. Have you ever in your lifetime seen such a bunch of spoiled brats? And I mean it. Spoiled brats like Schumer, Pelosi, the rest of the Democratic Party that absolutely can't get over a loss, can't rejoin their forces and try to make things better. They're not doing one doggone thing.
Well, the other thing I might say is maybe they're afraid they're going to get the feedlot doors shut down on them and they're going to have to provide for themselves.
What really bothers me is that there is a movement in this country to accept their vile and accept their filth and accept, quite frankly, their idiocy of a no-platform party. And their no-platform party isn't doing anything to try to make America better.
Well, to make America better, you got to do that in your own world and for yourself.
Absolutely.
And stand alone.
Absolutely. Well, Earl, up on the mountain this morning, good to hear from you, my dear friend. Take care of yourself.
Well, I'm a little short on air this morning, so I got to cut it short.
All right, my friend. You take care of yourself. God bless you. Thank you so much. Nice man right there. Thank you. You know, I just can't believe what's going on in this country. I mean, honestly, I'd like somebody to call and tell me I'm wrong. I really would. You tell me that Donald Trump did not do a good job on this presidential trip to Asia. Really? Explain why. And the incompetency of the media making little bitty speed bumps into mountains that can't be crossed with fake news. Whether it's the Trump handshake with the other world leaders, or whether it was, here was one of the dumbest things I ever heard. Somebody, a reporter, criticized Donald Trump for stepping in front of the Chinese leader's wife. In front of. You know, it was and they didn't show the whole tape. What happened was they were walking down this hallway, and the Chinese leader grabbed the whole kind of touched Trump's arm to go to the left a little bit, and he pushed him that way. Well, when he did, and by the way, the wives were walking behind anyway, but there was a big hubbub about how Donald Trump just stepped in front of the Chinese leader's wife. That is the furthest thing from the truth. And these idiotic, imbecilic, absolutely committed to nothing but hate reporters, they made a big story out of that, and it was completely false. Completely false. And that's what's going on against this presidency and this administration. It's laughable, but really, it's not funny. And then you take former CIA chief John Brennan, and he comes out on the news and says, well, I saw it. Yeah, I listened to it, and I've analyzed it, and Donald Trump is afraid of Putin. I didn't see anything like that. Did you? I didn't see any fear. I didn't see any trepidation. I didn't see any quaking or anything else from our president to Putin or any other of the world leaders. I saw a man that honestly was in charge. And a true leader of any type always makes it a point to go over to the people, to the other people in the room, and extend your hand and maybe introduce yourself or whatever. And that's exactly what Trump was doing. And he certainly didn't bow to anybody like Obama did. What are your thoughts on this? Come on, give me a call. I want to hear your opinion on this, please. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I have been asked by some people in this area to mention this story, and I'm not at all inhibited about doing it. A couple of weeks ago, we saw a story in our local newspaper about, and it was a disgusting story, about a pig meat cross being put up in front of the mosque, the Muslim mosque in Twin Falls, which was despicable if it happened. It's funny that we haven't heard anything more about this story, and it's also funny that over the weekend, Fox News carried a story about the false stories that were made up by the perpetrators themselves or the so-called victims themselves to gain sympathy. And I'll give you a for instance. In New York City, a Muslim woman saying that 3 men, white men, tried to rip off her hijab. Well, you know what? There was a lot of study. There was a lot of yelling and screaming, what a hate crime against Muslims. Oh, it was terrible. Why these 3 people should be thrown in prison for the rest of their lives. And then it came out that this Muslim woman made up the story. It was a lie. It was a farce. It was fake news. And the only reason I'm bringing this up this morning is because of the fact that we need to be very careful about insinuations and about using the terminology hate crime when we don't have all the facts in and there have been no arrests. I'll let it go until we hear further. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. While I'm waiting for your call, I want to remind everybody it's time to get ready to be prepared for wintertime driving. I hate winter. I grew up in Wisconsin where, holy smokes, I mean snow and ice and muck and yuck and oh my goodness. I know what it's like to drive in the muck, I'll tell you what. And then I went to school at the University of Minnesota, and I'll tell you what, it was even worse up there. Well, get ready for wintertime driving, and they've got all the tires for your cars, all the tires for your SUVs with all the different tread designs to get you through this yuck. That's right. And they got all the tire chains, and they've got the best in brake service with highly trained brake technicians. They got it all for you at all 7 locations. That's right. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul. These are good folks. And Daniel on Poline and Twin, and Randy on Overland and Burley, the best. Telling you to get ready for wintertime driving. Stop over and see them today. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Okay, your turn. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I still chuckle because I cannot understand how you could have a great big gathering of illegal aliens, people that have come into this country illegally, have taken up residence here illegally, and they all get together and they make their placards on their way to the Capitol in Washington, D.C., demanding more rights, and they shouldn't even be here. Yeah, I got to scratch my head on that one, boy. I'll tell you what a country, huh? All the illegals come in here and demand more rights and more benefits. And if you pulled that in any other country, like I said to that gentleman, to go to Iran or go to Pakistan or go to Japan and try that and see how far that glass of milk's going to go to make you feel good. Coming up at 9:30 this morning, I want to remind you that we're going to have a house full, a studio full of veterans. And you know my stand on the veterans. I will do anything to support our military. I will do anything to support our veterans. My dear friend George Mass, I just can't thank George enough. I always give him such a hard time, and we kid each other. But when it comes right down to the bottom line, George and his wife Donna, they have done so much to help further the cause for our veterans, and they've helped me on all these different projects. George lined up a lot of great people that are going to be here in my studio at 9:30 all the way to 11. We're really going to celebrate Veterans Day weekend, and I want to say thanks for all the help that he gives us. At 9:06, prior to that, we're going to talk to my dear friend Frosty Woldridge, and boy, has he got some interesting information to give you with a new piece that he wrote on diversity and multiculturalism, which is, in his words, and I agree with him, decomposing American society. We've got a lot of things planned for the rest of the day. Stay tuned. Zeb at the Ranch, wheels right now. Play some music and take us up to CBS News. Oh, rock and roll. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hour number 2 on this November the 13th, Monday. Good morning to you, Zeb at the Ranch, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Way Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Way Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Way Services.
You know, get on the route service today. As I've stated many, many times, we've been on the route service with Western Way Services for years, and you can just about set your watch with the time they're going to pick up your garbage. Every time, all the time, on time, great people. Absolutely. Getting rid of your garbage. Call them today at 734-6969. It's true. Always at your disposal. Western Waste Services. Real quick, before we get Frosty on the air this morning, I want to remind everybody about a really big sale, cattle sale up between Parma and Fruitland. It's one of the biggest and one of the best in the entire Northwest. It's the Molson Cattle Sale, where quality comes first. It's a bull and female sale at the Molson, Angus, and Hereford Ranch between Parma and Fruitland at 3135 Elmore Road, and it's going to be this next weekend, coming up on Saturday with the display on Saturday. Check out all the cattle, and then on Sunday, a big tri-tip dinner at noon with the sale to follow at 1 p.m. And let me tell you something, folks, these cattle are tops. Best of range-ready bulls, yearling bulls. They've got a lot of great foundation Angus females. All of this and more going on at the Molson, Angus, and Hereford Ranch sale coming up this next Saturday and Sunday between Parma and Fruitland. Call for more information, 739-0725. Really good people and good cattle. By the way, too, quickly, I want to say thank you very much to Joel Heward and his staff and his family. They are always there serving folks in the Magic Valley, always with a smile on their face and ready to help you with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. When there's the passing of a loved one, believe me, it's a very tumultuous and worrisome time, and you don't know what needs to be done in such a short period of time. They will help you. Absolutely the best. Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. The number to call, 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary in Rupert, serving you. There is a dear friend in Golden, Colorado, that probably he's a little bit nervous because his Denver Broncos, like my Green Bay Packers, are not doing well at all this year. And his name is Frosty Woldridge in Golden, Colorado. Good morning, Frosty. How are you?
Well, good morning, Zeb. And we must always remember that it's all only entertainment.
That's really true. Frosty, I got to commend you again this morning on an excellent piece called Diversity and Multiculturalism, Decomposing American Society. I want you to give us, I read the whole thing, highlighted most of the important parts that I wanted to mention this morning, but I want you to give us a general synopsis of why you wrote this and your feeling about this diversity and multiculturalism here in the United States.
Well, for those of us and those of you who are experiencing the forced multiculturalism of the importation of well over 1.7 million immigrants every year into our country, that now threatens to unravel the very fabric of the American society. It's already happening drastically over in Europe, and I literally talk to a lot of European writers and leaders that are trying to get a hold of the immigration crisis facing all of Europe. Several of them are in the United Kingdom and Great Britain, and as you all know, there are somewhere around 2.5 million Muslim, Northern, Middle Eastern, and African immigrants of Muslim proclivities that have all immigrated into the United Kingdom, so much so that they've created parallel societies. The same thing has happened in France, in Germany, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, you name it. And this one French writer wrote just a compelling piece about the decomposition of France, that it was decomposing because it's allowing itself, so many Muslim immigrants that there's no way for any kind of, and they just simply don't integrate, they don't assimilate, they don't become a part of France. They simply create parallel societies. You now have in excess of 100 no-go zones in the different slums that are Muslim slums throughout France and outside of Paris, and all the way down the line. And one of the things he said, he talked about the fact that they'd just foiled 32 terrorist plot attacks, 625 firearms were seized, 4,400 people suspected of having jihad links were searched, and another 752 individuals were placed under house arrest. And then he came to the point and said the general impression is that the country of France is failing from within. And then he got down to the last part. He said, after 2 French girls were murdered by an Islamist in Marseille last month, the social commentator wrote that France is experiencing a process of national and civilizational decomposition that authorities have decided to accompany and moderate without claiming to fight and overthrow it as if it were unavoidable, unquote. I look at the same thing happening here at the United States because we don't have the Muslim numbers as great as they have them over there. Somewhere in the arena of 40, 50 million Muslims have immigrated from the Middle East and out of Africa and just slammed into Europe and changing the entire social network and changing the rule of law, changing their cultures, changing their entire makeup, and all of it bad, all of it completely infringing on European culture and European excellence, and in fact bringing all the slums and all the welfare and all the other consequences that go with it, rapes. Sweden, of course, is now known as the rape capital of Europe. And so you see that happening. Well, we're also seeing it happen here, and there seems to be Americans simply just are bewildered by it. And for those of you who want to read this piece, it's in newswithviews.com this morning, and I think it's a powerful piece because it shows exactly what's happening to Europe, but it also shows exactly what's happening to America, and that we're being decomposed by mass immigration, and especially from incompatible cultures and religions like Muslims.
You know, Frosty, there's so much in so little time I want to ask you about this morning. But when you talk about the Muslim influence in our country, and then if we speak out against their being here, or we worry about the imposition of Sharia law, or we worry about the Muslim Brotherhood and all their hate against the United States and the Western atmosphere, they call us Islamophobes. And I don't mind being called names. I really don't, because I'm going to stand up for my convictions. And then you mentioned in there racism, xenophobia, Islamophobia, and nativism. Well, there was an editorial in the New York Times over the weekend that absolutely should have never been put in any paper, because it was reverse racism written by a black that said, "Can my children be friends with white people?" And then he answers no through the entire editorial and blames Donald Trump, this administration, and you and I and everybody else for being racist. But yet he's the one that's promoting the divide. He's the one that's promoting the division in this country, with racism, again, worse than it was in the 60s in Selma, Alabama. I am sick and tired of letting the left control the division of America.
Well, and they're playing it very well, and they get these huge audiences from the New York Times, even the Atlantic Monthly, and certainly on the Washington Post. And the reality is, and I really would ask everyone to listen to this 8-minute video that I included in this editorial. Anne-Marie Waters spoke up in Great Britain, and she said Islam is not a peaceful religion. And all she does for the first 5 minutes is just state every terrorist attack that's gone on down the line, and the treatment of women throughout the Islamic world. And she just explodes it in everybody's faces there in the audience. And you're seeing in this country, you're seeing whether it's a Kaepernick, Colin Kaepernick, a very privileged biracial man who got to go to the NFL and play incredible sports and get paid $100 million, and then he degrades every veteran, Old Glory, the Stars and Stripes, and the very essence of our country in front of millions, and then he starts a movement to degrade all of America, and now you have the New York Times allowing another African American to upset that. What we really wish for is the integration of all these different peoples into the melting pot of America to make sure that we're all Americans, and that when you are an American, you have extraordinary opportunities for self-fulfillment, more so than any other country in the world, or certainly any African country or any Indian subcontinent, or even in China. And yet you have these people literally destroying that melting pot concept and getting a front row seat on the New York Times. Obviously, the New York Times would never allow a writer like yours truly to talk about the overpopulation crisis that immigration is causing, or the multiculturalism crisis that's decomposing America. So again, what you're seeing is an amazing amount of powerful forces doing everything they can to destroy the cohesiveness of America. And as I've said many times in the past, what's going to happen when we get another 100 million immigrants in this country with the same thinking processes? You're going to see America just break down like Humpty Dumpty off the wall with no way to put it back together, because it's everybody else's country, and it's not America anymore. It's simply a giant conglomerate of world views and opposing factors.
Okay, now
we haven't seen anything yet. If we think it's already where it is right now, it's going to just accelerate in that direction.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be good for any of us.
Absolutely. Frosty, I know you followed this in the news, and when I saw it, I sat there and I scratched my head because it was so asininely stupid. This past week, there were thousands of illegal aliens into this country marching upon the capital of our United States of America carrying placards and demanding that they have more rights and benefits. Now, the picture is this. Number one, if they're illegal aliens and they're marching down Pennsylvania Avenue carrying placards demanding more rights and they're illegal aliens, where was ICE? Where were all the paddy wagons? Why weren't there all these people arrested? What's going on here? This is idiocy.
Well, as I've written in the past, and I wrote about E-Verify last week in a column, you can get on newswithviews.com and you'll see the column. The fact is that Mitch McConnell of the Senate, certainly Ryan of the House, and Boehner before him, John Boehner, they have left E-Verify completely suppressed so that no employers have to verify the legality of any worker in this country. This has been going on for 30 years. Our own Congress, your two senators and House Rep, my two senators and House Rep, have done everything they can to suppress the use and validation of E-Verify to make sure that employers hire legal American citizens or those who carry a visa to work. And so you've got this 15 to 20 million illegals in this country, and the numbers are so huge now that they're a massive block of very powerful marching, and they're voting in our elections and throwing elections. And this is all brought to you by our Congress because, again, my two senators, they're not doing anything. They've got F-minuses on the ratings card from numbersusa.org. And our House Rep, Mike Kaufman, F-minus. Jared Polis, F-minus. And so this is why they're all becoming so emboldened. The U.S. Congress continues to do nothing to stop anchor babies, to stop illegals, to stop the children from coming in, the DACA, and you name it all the way down the line. And so can you imagine, again, as I said, another 100 million immigrants that coming into this country, and they all want what they want, and it has nothing to do with what we want as American citizens. You can absolutely blame all of this on guys like John McCain, Charles Schumer, Dianne Feinstein, Barbara Boxer, Hatch in Utah, Rubio in Florida. You can just go right on down the line. Obviously, Jeff Flake, all of them. They're the ones that are causing this, and of course, they're being paid off for or lobbied by Marriott Hotels, McDonald's, Hormel Foods, Tyson Chicken, all the big corporations that want this 21st century slave labor. That's what we're getting, and now we're getting the results of all that after these last 30 years of all this lawlessness.
Yeah, but I guess I'm going to go back to the original premise of my question to you, is if you have on the streets illegal people that have broken the law to be here in this country, and they're blatantly sticking it in our face, carrying placards, I'm an illegal alien and proud of it, and demanding rights. First of all, my dear friend, I know I'm just an old cowboy from Idaho, but please share with me, what in the heck rights do they have if they're here illegally?
Well, again, they don't have any rights whatsoever, but they have numbers. And when they have such numbers, the ICE, looking at that kind of numbers, is fearful of mass riots and car bombings and burning. So what you have is a loss of the rule of law, and we're now cowering behind, literally in front of all those numbers. I don't know what the exact numbers were for the march, but again, they're becoming so prevalent. And again, remember, they're pouring in at over 500,000 illegals every year. That's continuing right now, even with Trump being in office. That's what's going on, according to Dr. Steve Camarata there from CIS.org. And he is tops in that area of figuring out all of the illegals that are coming into the country. So, again, it's getting out of hand. And so ICE may be powerless because they don't want to have riots and burning of cars and all that goes with it.
We have a caller with a question, and we're going to ask the caller to make it short and sweet because we're almost out of time. Go ahead, caller, quickly, please.
Well, I don't want to change the subject or anything, but I was just wondering if he had any comment on Colorado's ball game with Boise, Idaho.
Well, we'll wait till the end of the segment, and I'll ask him about that, but I appreciate your call. God bless you. Thank you. Frosty, I guess I want to know right now your opinion. You've been friends of mine and my wife's for years. Are we losing? Have we lost? Is the battle over? Or can the respect for law, the rule of law, and our Constitution ever come back again?
Well, it's going to, the respect for law and the rule of law is going to maintain where you have American citizens abiding by the Constitution. But we're going to see further and further the fragmentation of America, whether it's in Dearbornistan, Michigan, whether it's in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where Sharia law is now a de facto law that's going on. Same with Dearbornistan. Fremont, California is very much the same way. You're seeing more of that going on in Miami, and obviously Los Angeles and San Diego are becoming Mexico El Norte. And so what you're going to see is more fragmentation of America and the loss of the rule of law in those areas. Just one look at France or one look at Muslim-dominated London, England, and you can even go into Ireland right now. The Nigerians are taking over the cities over there because they simply cannot and do not assimilate into such a foreign culture, such as a first world country. So that's what we're going to see. I'm going to be speaking down in Houston here in another couple of weeks about the coming, literally the perfect storm gathering over America, and we're all going to be in this perfect storm, and it's going to touch all of us because we're going to see more and more of the rioting and more and more of the consequences that are now facing Sweden and Norway and Germany and France. That is inevitable because we keep pumping in all of these non-assimilating cultures and religions that are literally out to destroy the American way of life, and it's decomposing America, and it's all right there in my column, and those couple of videos, they're horrifying, to tell you the truth.
Frosty, I commend you for having the backbone and the spine, and you've had it for years to come on my program and tell it like it is, and I agree with you. And we're going to continue to keep sticking it in their face as far as this ridiculous diversity and multiculturalism. I agree with everything you've written in this piece, and I urge people to read it. Tell my audience how they can find this article by you, Frosty Woldridge.
Yes, you can go to www.newswithviews.com, and you'll see my face pop up. There's several of the different writers there. I write for News with Views every Monday and Thursday, and you can see me also on Capitol Hill Outsider, Freedom's Phoenix. I write for 20 different news service websites, but newswithviews.com is featuring, and you'll see my picture right there. And the whole article's there, and all I do is I just report the facts, and that's what's coming at this country. And again, our senators and House reps are not doing anything to stop it. Your two senators in Idaho, they haven't done a thing to implement E-Verify, and neither is your House rep. Absolutely haven't done a thing. And that's why all of this is going on, because our own elected officials refuse to enforce our laws. They refuse to stop the anchor babies that are coming in at $350,000 a year, pregnant women dropping their kids, and then they become instant citizens by a misinterpretation of the 14th Amendment, which was for slave children, not for what's going on now, and yet you and I are paying for it with our taxes. And again, as I've said, Numbers USA came out with a $296 billion a year is coming out of our taxpayer wallets to pay for all of this immigration, both legal and illegal, that are simply going on welfare. And as I've said many times, we need a national conversation on stopping all immigration into America. We can't survive it. We don't need it. We can't afford it. And we're not going to be able to continue it because it's literally tearing at the very seams of America and our ability to remain a cohesive civilization and a cohesive country under the rule of law.
Absolutely.
That's what's coming, Josh. That's what's coming, Zeb, and we're just having we're sitting back and watching it happen, and virtually our representatives are doing nothing to stop it.
Absolutely. Real quick, as the caller had made the comment, it looks like Boise State University was going to be buried on Saturday night, 28-3. Yours truly said to his lovely bride, I'm going to sleep. Boise State is toast. And then I wake up on Sunday morning and find out they staged a major rally and came back in overtime and beat Colorado State. I just thought we'd give you a little knife in the back over that.
Well, I've got that special steak knife that you've given me over the years. I still have it, so I'll just carve that tofu turkey humble pie and eat it with grace.
Hey, God bless you, man. Thanks so much for taking your time to be on the program, my dear friend Frosty Woolridge. Thank you so much.
Godspeed, Zeb.
All right, buddy. Take care. Frosty Woolridge in Golden, Colorado. I want to remind everybody right now about Ark Animal Hospital. Oh, boy, they are good. They really understand your pets, your livestock. It's a mixed animal practice, meaning big or small. They love them all, can take care of them all. That's right, Ark Animal Hospital at 750 21st Street near Connection Credit Union in Hayburn. The number to call, excuse me, and the number to remember, 678-1177. 678-1177. They do at Ark Animal Hospital have warm hearts for cold noses. You be sure and get a hold of them today. Oh, my goodness. We're going to start at this time our Veterans Day tribute, and my dear friend George Mass is here. And in just a few minutes, he's going to bring in, I don't know who's going to be first on the docket, but George is going to quarterback everything for us. And while we're waiting for that to begin, I also want to remind you about Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Absolutely the best. Serving you at 459 Overland Avenue in Burley. You know, it is time to get your house ready for the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and they've got all the sofas and the tables, and they've got all the new shipments of floor covering, carpets, vinyl and luxury vinyl planks, everything to dress and spruce up your home for all the parties and all the family members coming over for the holidays. Be sure and get a hold of Jeff Bronson back at Lee's Furniture along with his great staff, serving you at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More, 459 Overland in Burley. You know, for the first time in a long time on this program, I feel like I'm in a firing squad here, and I'm the victim. I got a whole bunch of people staring at me, and we're going to get right to that in just a moment. I also want to remind you about our friends over in Rupert at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, and they're located right on Highway 24 in Rupert. Very dedicated and responsive to your needs. Don't forget all about the life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, along with employee benefits. I'm being handed notes I can't read while I'm doing this. And, of course, don't forget they're very helpful to you and your family and your business. Call, make an appointment today at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Number to call, 436-4424. While you're over in that area, you don't want to forget about our friends over at Let's Ride. They're located at 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. This is where the fun is sold. All the snowmobiles, 2018 snowmobiles, all the four-wheelers, all the side-by-sides, everything, including all the accessories. All the clothing, everything you need to enjoy the great outdoors here in Idaho, and one of the best doggone service departments around anywhere. Keep you running at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. It's true. This is where the fun is sold. George Mass, would you pick up that microphone right there? And we will say good morning to you and thank you for helping put together our tribute to Veterans Day on my program.
You're welcome, Zeb, and I want to thank you for giving these veterans an opportunity to tell their story and get it out, what the veterans, what we've done, what we want to do, and what the support we like to get is astronomical, and you're a major part of that, sir.
All right, now I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'm going to have you introduce all the people that you brought with you. By the way, did they ride with you in the pickup truck, or?
No, the Greenwells, they said no, they'd rather walk.
And they're smart people. Go ahead and introduce everybody, if you would, please.
Yes, we've got Mike Greenwell and his lovely wife, Georgia Greenwell. She's the field officer for the veterans in Rupert. We have Senator Marv Hagedorn out of Meridian. He's also retired out of the Navy. And we have J.R. Strunk. He's a commander of the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association 13-5.
And calling in later on this morning
is Senator Kelly Anthon. He was supposed to be here, but he got summons to Boise.
He got a summons?
Well, they told him to get up there.
I see.
So
okay.
he's obedient.
All right. Well, listen, George, really congratulations to you for lining up this program.
You're welcome, Zeb. And
you, by the way, you're a veteran, too. You served in the United States Navy.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what was your job?
I was a cook.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's carried on into your everyday lifestyle, hasn't it?
Except at home.
Really? Donna does a great job.
She says to make too big of a mess in the kitchen.
Well, clean it up.
That ain't my job. That's her job. Right. Zeb, I'm going to turn it over to these guys. I'm going to go in there and sit and visit with Deanne.
The only reason you're going in the other room, now don't lie to me, old buddy.
There's a cake sitting on the counter.
There's a whole bunch of cake, and there's zucchini bread that was just baked and everything else. So I know
you guys keep him busy, keep him in here, and I'm going to eat the goodies.
Thank you, George. I appreciate it. Let's hand the mic over to Mike and visit with him in a little bit. Georgia and Mike Greenwell, husband and wife, and they've served in our military for how long, Mike?
Good morning, Zeb. I was in the Army for 21 and a half years.
Wow.
And Georgia, well, I'll let her tell her story. We actually met in a combat zone in Panama in 1989 after we invaded. And we were actually both stationed down there at the time. I was on Fort Kobe, and she was on Howard Air Force Base, which were essentially the same thing. But we met, and after that, it was fate.
Love at first sight in a camouflage outfit.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Well, she just looked so darn cute with that body armor on and that helmet. I thought she was a turtle at first.
Okay. And by the way, how many years have you been married?
26.
26. And yesterday, Deanna and I celebrated 46.
Outstanding.
46 years. She's never thought of divorce, but she's thought of murder 1,000 times.
Well, I have one rule on my chest. I have a tattoo. It says, "I want an autopsy."
I like that. That's good. Mike, I'm going to ask you and everybody to give us your ideas and interpretation of Veterans Day, what it is, why it is.
Veterans Day. That's a very good question, Zeb. And I have to think back early on when I first entered the service. I had no concept of it. I really did not. I knew it was a day that we honored veterans and things like that. My father was a vet. Two of my uncles were veterans. And it's just a day that we say, thank you. Over time, of course, that definition in my mind had changed quite a bit. It's a day of not only of remembrance and thanks that we give to veterans, but it's a day to reflect on what we are as a nation and what direction we're going on a day-to-day basis. And I feel that that's severely lacking in our society today. To take a look back, Veterans Day was designed to take a look at one of the most horrific wars that we had ever suffered through, and it was called the War to End All Wars for a reason, because hopefully it would show people that we can't do this any longer. Humankind is not like that. Mankind likes to kill each other, unfortunately, and I think war is going to be around to the end of time. But in that respect, we can limit it by realizing exactly what it takes for a young man or a young woman to go into that environment, survive it, and come back out relatively whole. And that's what I want society to realize is the sacrifices and just the state of mind that a person comes out with at the end of that process. That's what I want people to realize. You can thank me all day long. I appreciate it. I love the service. I loved my time in the service. There's no thanks necessary. I signed up. I volunteered, unlike a lot of guys before me who were drafted. I understand, but in the same sense, they answered the call and they showed up.
Absolutely.
And they went to the war for their country.
Absolutely.
So there's just no difference in any of us in that respect. But I would just like people to realize, take a step back and realize exactly, it's almost become cliched. Vets thanking a vet for their service. Everyone does it all automatically, and I don't think they really have thought deep inside exactly what they're thanking them for.
Yeah,
honestly.
true. Would you hand that microphone over to a lady that looks like she could be on the poster for America's Cheerleader? Absolutely one of the nicest people that I've had occasion to visit with on the radio many, many times, and that's your wife. George has been here many times. Give us a little case history of your involvement in the military.
Well, my first branch of service was the Air Force. I was in from 89 to 91, and because I had a little Spanish in high school, they decided to send me to Panama, which was where the hot zone was at that time.
I had a little Spanish in high school, too, and I only emerged being able to say sí and taco. That's about it.
Well, it's one of those lovely little traits that if you don't use it, you lose it. So That's how that works, too. My second branch of service was the Army. I was in from 1999 to 2007. So I've served in Iceland, Iraq, and El Salvador.
Explain that to me quickly, and I'm a little vague and naive on that, but you left the Army, basically, and went out of the Army and then rejoined to go into the Air Force?
No, I actually joined the Air Force first.
I see, I'm sorry.
And then I joined the Army after that.
Okay.
So.
Why did you want to go into a different branch instead of re-upping again in the Air Force?
Well, there was two reasons. There wasn't Air Force Base close, number one. And number two, the rank in the Army, as long as you do your job, pass your test, you get promoted. It's not like taking a test 5 or 6 times and hoping you're on the top 5 of that list to get that promotion. That's kind of the way the Air Force was working at the time.
I see. Okay. And then, of course, met Mike and...
Yes, I met my husband in Panama.
Okay.
Like I said, we've been married for 26 years, 3 kids, cat, dog later, so...
Let me ask you this, and I'm going to ask this of everybody here in the room. Were you ever involved, and I know you were from past conversations, in some kind of scary situations overseas serving our country? Is that correct?
Absolutely. Panama was my first combat zone. From there in 89, the 19th of December, and it lasted for 2 weeks. Everything was shut down. We didn't get any phone calls out until almost New Year's. So, family, my mom being at home and me being the oldest, that was a huge, huge shock to her when I finally got to talk to her on the phone. So,
give me a little insight, and for my audience also. Here's a lovely blonde lady from Idaho, and all of a sudden you're put in a combat situation. Must be a lot of fear and a lot of trepidation, even though you were trained.
Oh, yes, absolutely. But you have to do your job. That's what they trained you for in basic training. And when you went off to tech school or AIT, it's like you're a soldier first. You have to have all these basic trainings down, and it's more like a muscle training when you're going out to the range to fire your pistol or what have you.
And you two were married at the time, right?
In Panama. No, we married after.
After that, okay. Mm-hmm. But being apart, husband and wife being apart, going in different directions after your marriage in the military, that had to be a little tough.
Yes, it was. Especially when my husband being an infantry and paratrooper, and I got the call to go to Iraq for a year.
Oh.
It was definitely a boot on another foot. Let's just put it that way.
I just want to add one thing. She conveniently waited to deploy to Iraq until our children were teenagers.
I see. Dad had a handful. I really admire both of you for keeping not only the marriage together, but going and growing and still staying with the military. I mean, that's tough. Really tough. I don't think there's that many like you, are there?
There's a few.
There's more than you think out there.
Really?
They're just quiet. I guess I want to say, in other words, they're still in the service, so there's not a lot that they can actually get into the politics or get into the other things. But I believe that even though I'm out of the service, with my job being a veteran service officer, I can still give back to all the veterans who've served either before or even after me. And all we have to do is ask for those benefits. And that's sometimes the hardest thing for veterans to do, is to admit that they need help or they want help.
And that's what you're doing now, though, aren't you? The field officer for the Mini-Cassia area?
Yes, sir. I'm actually the Minidoka-Cassia County Veteran Service Officer, and I've done this for about 7.5 years right now.
Absolutely.
And my office is located in Rupert.
I'm going to be coming back to both of you in a minute. If you'd hand that microphone over, we got another mic there too for JR in just a moment. We have with us also Marv Hagedorn. Marv, I've heard a lot of good things about you up in our politics in Boise, and you were raised on a farm in Moscow. Is that correct?
Just north of Moscow.
North of Moscow. How far north of Moscow can you go and still have a farm up there?
Well, you know, in the Palouse country there's a whole lot of hills to farm.
Absolutely.
And I graduated out of Potlatch High School.
Really?
Yep.
And then take us, you went in the Navy, I believe.
I did. I was just telling these folks, my draft number was 13, and as a 17-year-old smart high school kid in Potlatch, I was going to outfox the federal government and not get drafted to go catch bullets for the Marines or the Army. I was going to join the Navy and live offshore and eat my 3 squares a day.
And what happened?
Well, after I graduated and went into the Navy, the company commander, Chief Spencer, I still remember his name 43 years later, he was asking everybody in the company why they decided to join the Navy, and I told him that story, and he said, well, Hagedorn, you're an idiot, because the draft stopped about 6 months ago.
Okay, and then I probably better not say that you then became also a politician.
Well, no, I ended up, it was towards the end of the Vietnam War, and they weren't treating the Vietnam veterans very well coming back.
No.
And I recall seeing a sign in a yard in San Diego that said, "Dogs and sailors keep off." And I always thought to myself, how the heck do they get the dogs to read those signs?
Yeah, really.
But they were just treating veterans so poorly back then that I re-enlisted and I stayed in the Navy. And I spent 20 years on active duty in the Navy.
Reverting back to that sign, are you happy, if that's a good word or not, the way things may have changed, the way we celebrate and really treat our military today as compared to 40 years ago?
I'm really proud of the way we treat our veterans today. It's the way that it should have been.
Absolutely.
40 years ago. And I'm seeing a lot more Vietnam veterans becoming involved in a lot of nonprofit programs.
That's true.
Because they know what it was like to not be treated well.
Yeah.
And they, too, don't want to have that happen again to the folks that are coming home now.
You were so dedicated that I have on my cheat sheet here that you started a foundation. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. My partner and I started the Waikin Foundation.
All right.
And this is it's headquartered in Boise. We bring in severely wounded veterans, severely wounded and ill. Typically, we take the hard cases, those that are at risk, and we surround them with mentors. We do professional development, teach them how to speak, teach them how to dress, teach them how to eat at a dining in or a black tie event. We get them into some kind of education program, whether they want to be a welder or a lawyer. It doesn't matter to us. We help shepherd them through that, and we connect them with leaders within the industry of which they've chosen that career path. And then we get them a career once they've finished their education system.
How big is this foundation and this group right now?
Right now we have 23 graduates.
Wow.
We've got about 40 students going in things from university to technical training to colleges, learning all kinds of great and wonderful things. And every single one of them that have graduated has a great career. And have integrated back into the community and are leaders in their community.
Absolutely. Marv, I've got a lot of questions for everybody, but JR, if you'd pick up a mic, and JR Strunk is with us, and he is the main man with the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association, served in Vietnam. Give us some background on JR Strunk that maybe I don't know about your military involvement.
I was, like a lot of guys back that stand around minding my own business and got a draft notice. I didn't join, although back in them days.
Let me ask you a question, pardon my interruption.
Okay.
When you got that notice, what's the first thing that went through your mind, and what did you feel like when you saw that Uncle Sam is going to get you?
Well, believe it or not, knowing that I raced, I'm a hot rodder and ride a bike, I was going down that afternoon after I was working swing shift at Simplots. I was going down that next morning and signing for a brand new Plymouth Roadrunner, and I got that notice. Thought, well, heck, there goes my Roadrunner.
And then tell us a little bit about your involvement in the service, the branch, and where you served, etc.
I was Army. I was drafted in the Army in Vietnam. I was in Cambodia, and when they said on TV we wasn't, but we was over there. And 1 year, 69, 70 over in Vietnam.
JR, you just mentioned something that I think needs to be brought out, and I'd like all of you, if you feel the urge, you can kind of talk about this a little bit. The American public and the news media, and at that time, that administration. I know for a fact what you're saying is true, but, oh, no, you're not in Cambodia. Yes, you were. I had a lot of friends over in Vietnam. Why can't we be forthright and honest about our involvement, what we're doing, why we are trying to do it a certain way, and whether we're winning or losing? Why can't that be brought out to the American public?
I can't answer that one, but just like Senator Hagedorn and I was talking coming down here, my opinion is they need to let the military fight the wars, not the newspaper and some of our politicians.
I'm going to ask you this. There were a lot of movies made and regarding our POWs and MIAs over in the Vietnam era. Are they still there?
I don't know. I would think after this long, the way they was treated after this long, I don't know that they'd still be alive.
Well, were they there initially and we were lied to?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. They were there, and it's like we talked about on the trip down about the way our prisoners have been treated over the years, not just Vietnam, but World War II and Korea and everywhere else. Right now, if you get captured overseas, the way they're treated, and like that, I'll be nice. That young man up out of Haley up there that just got released, I would say, and I've said, that I don't think he was treated too poorly because he's still walking and talking.
Amen.
And we've seen on TV, we see newspapers where someone was dragged to death, burnt, mutilated.
Yeah.
I
want to talk further about this, and I've got to pay some bills. So, Marv, I'm going to have you jump in after what JR had just said a moment ago. But right now, I've got a weather forecast to get on, and it's sponsored by Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. CPAs that have been serving the Mini-Cache area for well over 50 years with the best of tax return preparation, tax planning, financial statement preparation, bookkeeping services, retirement planning, and so much more. They've got offices in both Burley and Rupert serving you. And don't forget, it's about the end of the year. Get your 1099s and W-2s out. And Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company would like to thank you for your business this year. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather forecast as we saddle up and ride again for this week. Today, it's going to be a nice one. Mostly sunny skies, a little bit on the breezy side, but we are expecting a high of 61. Tonight, that's all going to change. We do have a 50% chance of rain showers in the forecast for this evening with a low of 35 tomorrow. That could carry over at least in the morning hours. 20% chance of showers is what they're calling for. Hopefully that's going to burn off by tomorrow afternoon. Mostly sunny skies, high of 48. Mostly clear for tomorrow night with a low of 29 by Wednesday. Partly sunny skies, high of 55. More rain showers for Wednesday evening with a low of 37. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Beautiful day today, but look out, it's going to get ugly in the next couple of days. It is the fall of the year. And the weather brought to you by Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. With offices again in Burley and Rupert, absolutely the best. Accounting services serving you for well over 50 years. In the Mini-Cache area, get a hold of them today. Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Marv Hagedorn, one of my very best friends went to Vietnam, and I had over 14 of my high school and college classmates go to Vietnam. Not one single person that came back argued the issue that there were a lot of POWs and MIAs unaccounted for and that we really weren't doing that much to get them back. As a person that has served politically this great state of Idaho and also served his country in the Navy, what are your thoughts about leaving these men there?
Well, that was a very sad time. And it was probably one of the worst run wars that we've ever been involved with. And I think it was the worst because we weren't letting the war fighters run the war. It was being run out of the White House.
Yeah.
And I think because of that and because of the White House's control on the media, the American people weren't told the truth because the politics at the time wouldn't have allowed it, and they wouldn't have been reelected.
No, I'm going to interrupt you. Wouldn't have allowed it. Wait a minute. In a democracy, this great country wouldn't have allowed it? That's where I put my foot down and say, why not?
You're absolutely right, and it was wrong. And that is why, and we were talking about this, that's why when we went into Desert Storm, the first Gulf War, I was still on active duty. And when we went into the first Gulf War, that war was over in 7 days. And it was over because we let the war fighters plan it and execute it. We got in, we got it done, and we got out.
I have not been able to serve because I'm 4F. But I'll tell you what, I will stand up for each and every one of these people in this room and fight to my death to preserve that great American flag and the people that have fought for me, and that's each one of you. But when I hear of politics, to me that's almost a filthy word. When it comes to human lives and human misery, I don't even want somebody to tell me, well, that's against the politics of what took place. I'm not yelling at you, but I'm just saying the generalization, well, politics took precedence over these people, not in my world.
Right. Mine either, and that's why we failed at that war, because people didn't stand up, because people didn't force the politicians who were running the war to tell the truth.
Are we in the same, I've only got a couple of minutes left here in this segment, and then we'll wait till the next one, but are we in the same position again today, Marv? Look at the politics, look at the left, look at the fragmentation of America, look at the groups like Antifa and Black Lives Matter, look at the absolute destitute left trying to take this Constitution and bury it. Are we in the same position?
You know, we're getting there, because we are all so divided. We have extreme right and we have extreme left, and sometimes they're on the same page, which really scares me. Yeah, we have got to make sure that everything that we're doing is transparent and that we answer to the people.
Amen.
I mean, completely answer to the people. I think we're in Idaho, we're doing very well. But nationally, I'm very concerned. I love the fact that President Trump is shaking things up back there.
Amen.
We need to have Congress now start to listen to the people.
We could start on that for a long time this next hour. I'll tell you that. I hate to interrupt you, but I got to get this in. It's Veterans Day celebration and commemoration on my program, and we're going to have these wonderful people for the next whole hour talking about their involvement in our military, and so don't go away. I want to remind everybody, Marv, I'm not looking at your shoulder, I'm looking at the clock behind your shoulder. I want to remind everybody about Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center at 924 Christian Way in Rupert. It is the only assisted living facility located in Rupert that offers and provides more one-on-one care for its patients. Don't forget personalized help for each and every patron, and they urge you to come by, take a visit, take a tour, and find out more. These are wonderful people serving people at Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center, 924 Christian Way in Rupert. The number to call, 436-3200. They're small compared to some, but with a bigger heart than most. Right now, let's head for the news from CBS. I'll be back in 7 with more. Don't go away. Welcome back. We had quite a spirited conversation during the break. Zeb at the Ranch, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to our third hour as we commemorate Veterans Day and the weekend that we just celebrated in honor of all of our vets of this great United States of America. Zeb at the Ranch brought to you by your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, telling you to get ready for winter driving. Look out, it's coming. And, of course, some of our great advertisers, including Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Call them at 734-6969. We're going to have more with our vets in just a few moments, but right now I also want to remind you that on Thursdays we have a segment on the program called Cassia County School Days, brought to you by two great businesses. First of all, A Child's World at 1308 Overland and Burley, and they've got all the children's clothing and the furniture and the games and the toys and the puzzles, free gift wrapping, and get ready for holiday shopping at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. Also want to say thank you very much to Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. Number to call for your outpatient surgery information, life-saving colonoscopies, and of course cataract surgery, carpal tunnel surgery. All of this and more at Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley, 677-8888, along with The Child's World, bringing you school days in Cassia County. George Greenwell, you've been there, done that, raised a family, and you and Mike are still very much involved in the military. What are your thoughts about where we have come from, let's say, World War II, through the Korean conflict, into Vietnam, now the Middle Eastern problems, and here we are today? What are your thoughts? Are we gaining anything, or are we still becoming more fragmented?
I believe we've actually gained quite a bit because of the support that the veterans all have now from being in the service and what they're doing now, compared to Vietnam, where they didn't get any support of when their country called for them and said, you will do this and you will do that. That has changed quite a bit. I see it every day when the veterans come to my office and talk to me and let me know what they're doing.
Right there, I'm going to ask you, because of your involvement with the Mini-Cassia area in helping veterans, what about the status overall today with the Veterans Administrations taking care of our vets, helping them, knowing that they have certain problems, PTSD, all this? Are we doing enough, or are we way out in left field with the cheap seats? Have we done anything?
Actually, we have, because 7.5 years ago when I started this position with the Veteran Services, it would take anywhere from a year to 18 months just to get a claim finished with a veteran, and that was for a service-connected disability. And when it came to anything with doing the pensions, with aid and attendance, it took at least that long, if not 2 years. With everything that had gone on in the past 3 years in the news with Phoenix and everything else, it's been put in the limelight to where they have to do something better and do their jobs better, and they have gotten rid of a few people who were in the higher-ups that weren't making making the claims work for
Does the dirty word politics, is that the vulture in the tree over this whole thing?
I believe it had parts to do with it.
I don't think Marv liked that terminology. He wrinkled his nose.
It may have had part to do with it, but it was people being comfortable in their positions and getting a paycheck and not caring, I believe, is what most of it was.
I agree.
You know, that four-letter word, everybody in the community can do it. It's not just for veterans. It's for everybody. Check on your neighbor. You know, just care about who's around you and what's going on.
Do people here in this area, and we consider ourselves to be a rural area still today, do we really know our neighbors? Do we know the service that they've gone through for our country? Do we really know who these people are? Are we really that helpful to them?
All you have to do is talk to your neighbor.
There you go.
It's that simple. I know it sounds like an easy thing to do, and it really is. You know, every time my husband and I have moved to different states or different towns or whatever else.
How often have you had to move?
11 times.
They're sitting here calculating right now.
I believe
you have moved 11 times?
In 26 years,
In
yes.
26 years. Mm-hmm. Literally almost half of the years. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 11 times. Deanna and I were thinking about selling this place a couple of years ago. And you know what changed our mind? All the storage boxes of our history. This is just a small portion of it. I don't want to go through all that stuff. How did you do that so many times?
Thanks to the service, they actually moved us quite a bit. Actually, they moved us about every time except for 2 that my husband and I have counted so far. But it is taking that inventory of your life. When you do move, you sit down and it's like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen this photo in this long, and I haven't seen this in so long.
Bingo, yeah.
It makes you sit down and like, okay, I really need to do something with this, either hang it in the picture frame, put it in a photo album, or I need to give it to a sibling or somebody else who is going to appreciate that piece of history.
Let me ask you this, on behalf of being a married couple in the military, have you had those circumstances where maybe sometime on a Sunday morning you're sitting at the kitchen table and you really have to recommit to what you're doing?
Such as what?
Staying in the military and just saying, boy, I don't want to move anymore. I've had enough. I got to get out of this.
Unfortunately, I've been a gypsy before I joined the service, so it doesn't bother me as much as it would a regular person. I went to 3 different 5th grades when I was growing up, so this moving around is not new for me. Now, my husband, or my father-in-law Morris, as soon as he got out of the service, he came back to Idaho, and he'd been in the same house. But that was what he loved to do, was farming. That was his passion.
Do you think, Georgia, that the perception of our military and our vets is really understood by the common citizen here in this country? As to what they do, how they do it, and how well equipped and educated they have to be?
I don't. And the reason I say this is I've had a lot of people not ask me, but ask other veterans, so were you not smart enough to go to college? Is that why you joined the service?
You've hit it on the head. And I am just absolutely enraged when I hear somebody say that. One of my very best friends went to Vietnam, and 3 days after he was there, he got hit with napalm. And he was one of the sharpest students at the University of Minnesota, had a degree coming up, and he was also one of the best football players at that school. And people walked up to him and asked why he was so stupid to get involved in the military.
And actually, a lot of people, a lot of civilians, I'll say, that's never been in the service or don't have a family member that's been in the military, they don't realize how technical and how precise and detailed it comes to a job in the military. And that's across all the branches. That's not one branch you can pick. It's every branch that you're in, because one slip up can be a life or death situation depending on what your job is, where you are, and everything else.
Bingo. You want to hand that to your spouse? Mike, I've got to ask you this question because we're hearing shortages of Air Force pilots. I think they said they were way thousands and thousands short on Air Force pilots. They're short for people going into the Army, etc. Bluntly speaking, are we going to have to re-implement the draft?
It's a possibility. I certainly see it as a possibility in the future. Not one I look forward to, but it's determined by the necessity of what our nation needs. And going back to that, politics is always going to be there in our national purview. It's always going to be there. Where I think we're failing is our individual our individuality every day of doing what we need to do to understand what this nation is all about and what we're supposed to do as a citizen of this nation.
Yeah, bingo. But it's not being taught in the schools.
Very good point. And I have over the last decade, I've had involvement with youth groups at my church, in schools in the area, and things of that nature. And I have a little experiment that I conduct, and I tell the students, say, all right, finish this phrase, duty, honor. I've only had 2 kids in a decade finish that sentence, finish that phrase, duty, honor, country. And it bugs me to the point that that's where we're failing. We're not failing in our politics. Politics is always going to be there. We're always going to have divisions. We're always going to have divides in that. We're failing in our children.
Okay, but Mike, is it, when we talk about education, this all ties into Veterans Day, honest to goodness, because I want those kids to know the sacrifices that each one of you have given for this country and for them to enjoy what they're enjoying. But it's not just the kids' fault. Good heavens, no.
Absolutely not.
It goes back to the home. It goes back to the parents. It goes back to the liberal educators. It goes back to the people that are educating these liberal educators. Why in the world did we ever let this happen like this? I can't imagine. When I was in school, we stood for the Pledge of Allegiance, and there was no if, and, or but about it.
I absolutely agree. It was incremental. It was incremental to the point. I cannot remember the Soviet leader that said this, but at one point they said, we're not going to conquer you with guns and missiles, with bullets and missiles and everything else, it's going to be slow.
It was Nikita Khrushchev,
It was Nikita
1963.
Khrushchev. Yeah, and I can't remember the
I'm
exact
an old
words.
man, I remember.
But he said, we're going to destroy you from within.
That's right.
And that's exactly the way it's occurred. It's incremental and
How do
slow.
we turn this around, Mike?
By not being that citizen who just ignores those things that happens next to him and goes, well, it's not really my business.
It's everybody.
It's our business, okay? Our society is our business. We are individuals inside of this society, and this society is going to be determined by our actions or by our lack of action.
Which leads me to ask you and go right down the line. I am fed up with these overpaid, underworked prima donna athletes that are taking a knee during our national anthem. I know what I'd do. I've got a cattle prod out there I use to move my steers up and down the rope and shoot. I'll guarantee you there'd be no kneeling or sitting on my sideline.
Absolutely.
I've had it. I have nothing to do with the NFL anymore, even though I was born and raised almost right next door to Lambeau Field, Green Bay Packers. I bleed green and gold. But all seriousness, Mike, these are people that have no thought about what they're doing. They have no premise as to what it is to serve and see maybe your partner die in the military and you're lucky enough to come home. What is the matter with these athletes today? They can't understand. They're doing nothing to help further America.
Well, it's the lack of individual responsibility on those players to really realize what they're doing. They really don't. I really don't believe they know what the heck they're doing. They're taking a stand for what they believe in. Fine, but you also need to have the respect to try and understand the other side as well before you do something like that. But this is a lack of leadership on both the owners and the commission.
I agree.
The NFL commissioner, it's a lack of leadership on their part.
If you work for my small business or a major business, like the Jerry Jones that owns the Dallas Cowboys or anybody else, you are a paid employee. You will dress, you will act in the nature of my business. Anything else, don't let the doorknob hit you in the rear end on the way out.
No, absolutely, Zeb. I find it unconscionable, and I realize they have backed down a little bit. There was, I guess, 3 players that kneeled this last weekend.
49ers, yes.
49ers,
yep.
And was it the Giants they were playing?
Yeah.
And
the 2 worst teams in the NFL.
Yeah. I just don't get it. I understand standing up for something you believe in.
What does that make you feel like as a vet, though, when they take that knee or sit on the bench during the national anthem? What does Mike Greenwell feel?
I think the FCC would have some issue with what I honestly feel, Zeb. The words that come to mind forefront aren't repeatable on air. It bugs me to the point. I want to shake them, and I want to just sit them down and go, I want to educate them. That's my first instinct, is to educate them and find out, why are you doing this? Maybe find out their perspective, but also show them why it's so wrong.
I would bet, and each one of you can correct me on this, but I would bet initially with the nothing more than Colin Kaepernick sitting down during the anthem and then wearing socks that showed police as pigs, etc., I would bet it was kind of a follow the leader type thing. And I would bet you any amount of money that initially most of the blacks involved in this campaign didn't have a clue.
Well, I think the protests that are going on now are a response to Kaepernick not being picked up by a team.
I believe you're right.
I think that is one of the underlying causes.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's. I think there are other factors to it, but I think the largest cause is because he was not picked up. He faced repercussions for his actions, and they didn't like that because all of a sudden now they realize, oh, maybe we're not in charge. And that's, again, the lack of leadership by the owners and by the commission to turn around and go, listen, you're players for us, okay, and we're all players for the nation.
Absolutely. JR, I want your thoughts on that. I know you've got a lot of feelings about these overpaid, underworked athletes that basically have been given a free ride through high school, college, and now into the pros, and displaying this kind of animosity towards our flag and our anthem. What are your thoughts? Hold that mic real close, please.
Just like Mike says, I got to be careful.
So do I, by the way. It's my neck.
Yes, I don't know. I'm really disappointed in them. You know, that you take these children, young kids, high school kids that he's got these big dreams about becoming an NFL star and all that stuff, and then this is what they got to deal with.
I want to hold this up while you're talking. Look at this. Front page of the USA Today last week. Here's a high school team. Look at the amount of players that are taking a knee during our national anthem. That is absolutely disgusting. Where's the parental value, the teacher value, the coach value, and the teaching about how great this country is? Doesn't that make you sick?
Yes, and it's like I believe Mike said earlier, if we need to have the parents need to step up and do something with this. I'll tell you, once I asked one of my grandchildren, they graduated from high school, and I said, what was your favorite class in there? And they said history, and I said, oh, you learned about Patton and Rommel and people like that. And he said, who? And people need to know the truth. They need to know the truth about what really happened, and the evil in this world. It just, these guys that are taking a knee, I don't have a lot to say nice to say about them. It's.
What about, our Pledge of Allegiance and our national anthem? And I make sure that at every lunch bunch, I think you've been at my lunch bunch in the past, haven't you?
No, sir, I haven't.
Well, please come. Please come sometime. George has been there. And we put it on once a month at Denny's restaurant in Burley, but we always, and I will not weaken on this, we have about 70 people there, and we have a prayer, and then we do the pledge, and then we do the national anthem. And in all the years that I've put that lunch bunch on, I've had on possibly 2 or 3 occasions people that were in the outer perimeters of the building come up and complain to me about these having a prayer or the national anthem or the pledge. And there again, I'll use your statement. The FCC wouldn't let me say on the air right now what I told them. I will not weaken on that. That's a part of the fabric of what I do, and it won't change.
Said we have a monthly meeting with the combat veterans every month, and we start our meeting with a pledge and a prayer.
Absolutely.
Every time.
Absolutely. Marv, you're still involved in politics, running for lieutenant governor, correct?
Right.
Okay, so you're still on the firing line, and you're going to be involved in politics. What are your thoughts about where we are with the young people of today, and how do we ever rebuild a foundation of respect, not only for the country and the Constitution, but also our soldiers?
This conversation kind of all is circular to me, because when we grew up, and I grew up in a small community, you guys are all in a small community, we grew up with our neighbors. We got to know our neighbors.
Yeah.
If we had the ability to help our neighbors, we helped our neighbors when we could do that. And because we knew that our neighbors would help us if they had the ability to do that. That we're not teaching that. That doesn't happen in high school. We have parents who didn't grow up that way, and they're teaching their kids the same way of just worrying about themselves. And one of the things that all of us experienced when we went through our initial boot camp training was we were instilled with an ethos of service. It's about what we do for our nation and for our country. That's what we do. And you'll see veterans still, after they get out, they display that ethos of service. That's what they do.
Let me ask you a question right there, Marvin. The only reason I interrupted you is because we're short on time, and I want to make a couple of points. Today, this is true, the left is making a big to-do over the phrase white nationalism. You know that. You've heard about it. Quite frankly, I'm very proud to be a white nationalist for this country. But they've turned that into a form of degrading people if you're a white nationalist. And what are your thoughts on that terminology?
It frustrates me that we're still classifying people by the color of their skin.
Bingo.
I mean, we all learned in the military, it wasn't the color of your skin that mattered. It wasn't the color of your hair or the color of your eyes. Is what mattered is how well you did your job.
Thank you. That's exactly right.
And we've got to grow above that.
Can we?
I think we can. We have to. If we're going to move on as a nation and as a society as a whole, we've got to grow beyond that.
I just had word, thanks to my little smartphone, that Kelly Anthon is on the phone and ready. But what we're going to do is we're going to finish the thought. Wheels over at the station, if you would tell Senator Anthon that we're going to do him right after the break so I don't have to cut his call off too early. We'll do it right after the break at 10:30. If he can hold on the line just for a couple of minutes, I'd sure appreciate it. You know, as we look at this weekend and we talk about the military and we talk about our veterans, and I want Georgia to start this off, if you would. What are your thoughts now? I'll tell you right up front. I am proud. I may not agree with everything Donald Trump has done. I may not agree with all of his philosophies or his friends or his business practices or his tweeting or whatever. But I will tell you this. I watched over the weekend and I read everything I could get my hands on about this Asian trip. And quite frankly, I think for the first time in years and years and in presidency terms, this man has been a leader over in the foreign world to let these people know we're not going to take any more garbage from anybody. Am I wrong? You're a veteran. Tell me.
No, I don't believe so, because what scares most of the people there in Washington, D.C. is they can't control him. They can't buy him. They can't lead him one way or another because he has everything he wants and good desire. And that's what scares the daylights out of them. I also believe that's what scares the foreign national or the foreign people too, is because when he comes over to talk business. They can't buy him, like I said, because he has all of his own
And he hasn't bowed to anybody.
No, he has not. And the only thing that the news can bring up is him dumping food in a koi pond. Oh my goodness. That's not the issues here, people. We're talking about the issues. And that's all they do is deflect everything that's important. They do not put anything important on the news at all.
What about his involvement as president? And I've got about a minute and a half before a break. Tell me what your thoughts are about how he has treated the military so far.
Actually, excellent. Reason being is because he put Mattis in charge and said, listen, this is your realm. You know, when he was picking his cabinet, he did the same thing. He picked the most expert person in their career field and said, I want you, and you, because I'm not an expert. I need your advice. You need to be my counsel and everything else. And that was the smartest thing he could have done, is pick the biggest and the best for what he needed them to do.
And what about the funding for the military? I know that there are many people that say, oh, well, we don't need more funding, and I want to see more of a budget for the military.
I agree with you because I've lived through the 1991 when they were doing all the drawdowns and everything else on the military, which got us in a lot of trouble because when Iraq came around, we're pulling National Guards, we're pulling reserve people in, which we had to because we didn't have the manpower on active duty.
I have 4 of the nicest people and smartest people on the air this morning, 5 with George and the groceries out in the other room. And we're going to have much more with them. Plus, we have an added bonus for the program right after the break. We have Idaho Senator Kelly Anthon, and I'm really looking forward to having a conversation with him. So stay tuned. We'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
We are very honored to come back, and we're commemorating Veterans Day, a day that I absolutely am so proud to have these people in my office and in the studio. And along with all the other folks that are here, I want to say thank you again to Marv Hagedorn. We're not finished yet, guys. Georgia and Mike Greenwell, J.R. Strong, George Mass, and also with us is Idaho Senator Kelly Anthon, one of my dearest friends. Kelly, can you hear me? Good morning.
I can, Zeb. Thank you so much for having me today.
Well, you are just absolutely welcome, and I understand that you have just been recognized by the Department of Defense for your support of military and veterans. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, Zeb, and that's nice of you to bring that up. I was surprised when the Department of Defense sent out somebody from one of their offices to meet with me and present me with an award, but it's the kind of award you feel a little bit sheepish about getting, especially when it's received in context of supporting the veterans. I really don't think I deserve anything for doing that. I think really what we owe is Well, we owe everything to them. We really, really do. So what happened there, Zeb, is that one of the employees over at the City of Rupert nominated me for that, and boy, that was a really nice thing. But again, it's more important that we talk about how we have a great, great group of people in our country who protect us, who serve their country, and as I've kind of heard as I've listened to you this morning, there are people who do that at much sacrifice. Just to hear about the moves of a family 5 times, that's a lot of sacrifice. So thank you to you, Zeb, because I think that what your program does is really bring some good focus to these issues that matter, and I'm sure glad that you have Senator Marv Hagedorn in the studio today because he is a veteran, of course, and he's somebody who I've grown to respect as someone who will speak out for what he believes in. He's done a great service to the state of Idaho. I'm glad to see him running for lieutenant governor. And thanks to your other guests, J.R. Strunk and the combat veterans, what they do for our community, and George Mass, Adam Fowler, and all those folks, and your other guests in the studio. This is an important conversation and important that you have this happening, so I appreciate you.
Kelly, let me ask you, like I've asked many of the guests here already this morning, and I don't mean to sound negative, I'm just being factual. The respect for our flag, the respect for our anthem, the respect for our country, the respect for our soldiers, it seems to be diminishing because of a concentrated effort by the left. You, in turn, have worked hard to help re-implement a study, if you will, in the school system of really what our flag is, what it means. Can we turn this thing around?
I think, Zeb, I do think we can turn this around. And as I've talked before, we've gone too much time without really focusing back and turning back around for patriotism, for support of the U.S. Constitution, for support of the ideals and symbols of our nation. And really, if you talk about patriotism, that's what it is. It's devotion to the U.S. Constitution, the principles of American life that are our ideals and our values, and the symbols that represent those things. So I am utterly puzzled when people see something go wrong in the country and they abandon their patriotism. Because really, our patriotism should inform us that we should be standing for the flag. We don't have to see a perfect country in front of us to stand for the flag. We are going to do ourselves a great disservice in this country if we don't redouble our efforts to teach our youth about the importance of American ideals, American exceptionalism, and especially the value of the United States Constitution.
We are honored to have you on the phone, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, Kelly. What are your thoughts about Veterans Day and about the continuation of support for our military and also our great country? I'm going to have you wrap up your conversation with those remarks, please.
You bet. Well, first of all, Zeb, I think that we should be recognizing as Americans and teaching our families and in our schools something I call American exceptionalism. And all you have to do is a quick study, and what you will realize in all the history of the human family, from the beginning of time, no one has had the freedoms and the prosperity of all time like we do as Americans. No one. And no one in the world today has what Americans have in way of opportunity to do the things that they want to do and raise their families in the way they want to raise them, and to prosper in the way they choose. That is unmatched. We have every right and every duty, in my mind, to be proud of that. And for us, we must also recognize that we only have that. We only have that because men and women have joined the military, and they have put their lives on the line, and in many cases lost their lives to defend it. And we're going to have to be vigilant and diligent. Because if we don't remember these things, and if we don't continue to honor those who protect them, we will lose them. And that's my commitment. I know that's the commitment of those that you have in the studio. I know that's your commitment too, Zeb, and that's why I appreciate you guys.
I'm proud to say that you're my friend. I'm proud to say that you're my state senator, Kelly Anthon. God bless you, my friend, and I wished you were here in the studio, but thank you so much for calling in.
Well, God bless, Zeb, and thanks to all the veterans who are listening today. Thank you for your service.
God bless you. Thanks, Kelly. There is a great guy, and I'm really proud to call him an Idaho State Senator, Kelly Anthon. Thank you very much. Last week on the program, on Dr. History segment on Tuesday, we had Dr. Ken Turner, and he gave me a poem. And Wheels, we have that dial tone going on the air. You want to cut that off, please? Wheels, turn off the phone, please. Evidently, Wheels isn't listening. There he goes. Make sure that phone doesn't come back on. Thank you. Dr. Ken Turner wrote a poem called The Stone Wall, and he dedicated to World War II veterans. I've never read the poem myself before. He said it on the air last week. And if I may, with the four of you in the studio, I'd like to repeat it here this morning. Written by Ken Turner. The men arose, prepared for the day, a day like so many others. Rifles, helmets, and all the gear, a bond, like so many brothers. Orders came down the line, orders for soldiers to obey. Wondering what the day would bring, home folks praying day after day. From a ship, a bomber in a tank, or those with boots on the ground, they are the greatest generation, no braver men to be found. They volunteered willing to serve, with mud, blood, courage, and fear, forever hoping war would end, knowing if death was near, never knowing if death was near. Captain Wasco's body lay quiet and still in the shadow of the stone wall. A true leader loved by his men, why did this man have to fall? His men gazed at the lifeless form, questions, no answers but why. Willing to fight for family and country, and yes, even willing to die. Peace would come in the end, the cost so grave because they gave their all. Let's remember those who didn't return, those 'neath the shadow of the stone wall. Who's got the mic? Mike, your thoughts on that poem? It's very well done.
It displays just what vets think about all the time. And I shouldn't say all the time. I've worked with some vets in the past who've had some issues with their service as far as some of the things they saw, some of the things they did. And I had one vet ask me, how did you get past this? How did you get beyond it? How did you not let it affect you to the degree that it can destroy a person's life if they allow it to do so. And there was a certain detachment. Remember the first time I ever saw incoming fire, there was a detachment. It was almost like I wasn't actually even there. I was performing my job. I was still, cognitive of what was going on around me, but there was a detachment. I had a job to do. And some of these vets, and just hearing that poem is realizing that there are so many that didn't come back, and that could happen to you at any moment, at any time. That just brings it all home.
Let me, if I may, share with you a happenstance that happened to me about 3 years ago. I was at a roping in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And I was coming out of the indoor arena, and a gentleman stopped me, and he said, I watched you when you got on your horse, and he said, I noticed you're on crutches. And then he says, I noticed you use a stand to get on your horse. And then he said, I stopped, and I watched you as you buckled up a seatbelt so you could ride. And I said, yes, sir. And he said, do you have some time right now that you could visit with my brother? And I'm going to get pretty emotional telling you this story, but I said, well, certainly, what can I do? And he said, my brother just got back from overseas, and he lost his right leg, and he has paralysis on the left. And he's always wanted to ride a horse. And he's kind of given up. And after watching you, he says, I'd like you if you'd talk to him. Well, I said, I've got to go back in and take another steer, but I said, as soon as I'm done, you know where my trailer is, I'll just meet you over there. And I finished up and I went over there, and it wasn't 5 or 10 minutes. Excuse me. And here come these two gentlemen, one pushing the wheelchair. and the other veteran, and he had a beard and the leg amputated, etc. And I said, what can I do to help you? And he said, I would love to learn how to ride a horse. He said, I've tried everything, and I just don't have an interest in it, or it doesn't work. And he says, how do you do it? And I explained everything to him. Well, long story short, that person went from there and learned how to ride, like with the amputees and the seat belts and everything else. And I haven't heard from him in probably the last 8-9 months. But the last that I'd heard, he was even trying to team rope. And he got his life together, and he's really showing an interest in something. And that made me feel good. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
not at all.
That's a story that I just really feel good about.
No, absolutely, and it displays the character that individuals have within them. So many people today look at a problem and see it as insurmountable.
There you go.
And just won't even consider it, they'll turn away and go to something easier because it is the default thing they've learned. Yeah. I look at a problem, and I can't say I always do it this way, but I try every day to make sure I see a problem, I'm going to figure out a way over it, through it, around it, under it, or with the practical application of high explosives, get it out of my way. It's a mindset that you have to adopt in this life if you want to be successful. If you want to sit in your mother's basement blogging about the latest political situation going on, fine. That's your measure, whatever. Do that with your life. I guarantee you won't be near as happy as I am.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm going to do is do a weather forecast, and then we're going to start with JR, and we're going to go right down the line. We've got about approximately 11 and a half minutes left. And right now our weather is brought to you by Scarro's Meats over in Jerome, as I've about ripped my headset off. Excuse me. Ooh, the pain. Scarro's Meats over in Jerome. Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew located at 331 North Road, Jerome. Absolutely the best in meats, and their retail meat department, delicious. ScarrowsMeats.com. You can check that out or call them at 324-7657. Don't forget Don Scarrow and the crew with the most delicious meats anywhere available to you. Scarrow's Meats in Jerome. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather forecast as we saddle up and ride again for this week. Today it's going to be a nice one. Mostly sunny skies, a little bit on the breezy side, but we are expecting a high of 61. Tonight that's all going to change. We do have a 50% chance of rain showers in the forecast for this evening with a low of 35 tomorrow. That could carry over at least in the morning hours. 20% chance of showers is what they're calling for. Hopefully that's going to burn off by tomorrow afternoon. Mostly sunny skies, high of 48. Mostly clear for tomorrow night with a low of 29 by Wednesday. Partly sunny skies, high of 55. More rain showers for Wednesday evening with a low of 37. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina. Brought to everybody by Don Scarrow and the crew. We got to get old Don back on the air here. Maybe he'll come over and do it in person, and I can have him bring some bratwurst with him. Scarrow's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Real quick, too, don't forget our friends at Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center, 924 Christian Way in Rupert, the number to call. And remember, for maybe a member of your family that needs a little special one-on-one care, Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center, 924 Christian Way in Rupert, the number to call, 436-3200. And they really do personalize the help for each and every individual resident that stays there. Absolutely, and they'd love you to take a tour of the place anytime, all the time. Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center in Rupert, number to call, 436-3200. They're small compared to some, but with a bigger heart than most. J.R. Strunk, I would appreciate it if you'd give us basically your thoughts about Veterans Day and looking to the future. What would you like to see better for our veterans and Veterans Day?
Boy, I don't know. There's all kinds of things I'd like to see better. I'd like to see a little better care for them. I'd like to see a little better counseling. We talked about on the way down here. It's not necessarily the counselors we have are not bad counselors. It's just that a man that's been in combat needs to talk to somebody who's been in combat.
I agree with that. Boy, do I agree.
Yeah, he can't. George and I, we put a thing on his cook shack that was the deal I've seen in Vietnam that said the protected life has a flavor, the protected we'll never know, and that to me that says your combat soldier, the people that don't understand them, they'll never know. They'll never know that. It's just like the Harley Davidson thing says, if I have to tell you, you'll never figure it out. It's just I'd like to see, like I said, a little better counseling for these guys coming home. This suicide stuff's got to quit.
You stated something that is so absolutely true. It's just like what I mentioned to Mike a little bit ago about me and the way I have to ride and rope as compared to somebody else. I can help them more than somebody that's an able-bodied person because I've been there and done that. Does that make sense?
That's absolutely right. Just like we said during the break, a team. We're all a team.
There you go. JR, thank you so much for being with us.
I just can't thank you enough for supporting us.
Well, I want to ask you one favor before you go. Would you please go out somehow in the next couple of days and tape that rum of a Harley and send it to me? I want to go to bed at night hearing that.
How about if I just bring it down here?
There you
park
go,
at your door.
JR. Do that. Thank you. Marv Hagedorn, same question. What do you think about where we are, where we should be, and what can we do to help the veterans and also the overall concept of the great United States of America?
There's not a single person in this room. I think you know that. All of us were ready to willing to lay down our lives for our constitutional freedoms, and that includes the right to protest, burn a flag, do whatever you feel is necessary. That's a freedom. That's a guaranteed freedom that we have all supported and would die for. But respect is not guaranteed.
There you go.
And so for those folks that want to protest in a way that that is not respectful to veterans, to our flag, or to our country, I'll be the first in line to go kick their tail. I'll protect their freedoms forever, but they've got to earn my respect. Veterans are like that, and I think that the 98% of the public that is not served need to understand that's where we come from. We're no more special than anybody else. We just volunteered at a time when our country needed us to do something.
Absolutely.
And we carried that out. And we still want to volunteer. We still want to help. And I think if the private sector, if those 98% of the civilian population, I hate to say civilian, it's the private sector, if they want to get to know us, reach out and get to know us.
Absolutely.
We're your neighbors.
There you go.
We all need to know each other.
By the way, you're running for lieutenant governor, and God bless you. I appreciate more service to your state of Idaho.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Georgia, wife, mom, homemaker, military. Wow. That's quite a combination and quite a task.
Yes, sir, it is. But you know what? I'm still serving our community today, and that's the most important part. Just like you said, you've got those people out there who want to be better and want to change their lives or move on from what they've seen in the past. And the only way they're going to be able to do that is to talk to someone who's been there and done that. You don't have to be in a service communication. They don't have to talk to a counselor. They can talk to another battle buddy, as we always call it in the service. You're not doing this all by yourself. You've always got somebody next to you that's going to be your partner in whatever you're going to do. So it's the same thing. Once they get out of the service, somebody who's brand new got out of the service, knock on their door and say, "Hey, let's go have a beer, or let's go have a glass of iced tea or something. Let's talk about stuff." If you see someone having a bad day, doesn't have to be a veteran. It could be anybody, your neighbor, anybody having a bad day. Ask them what's wrong. See if they want to talk about it.
Real quick, Georgia, and I'm almost out of time, but you serve as the field officer for the Mini-Cassia area. If somebody wants to talk to you or call you, can you give us a number or something?
Absolutely. My office number is 208-678-3599. And it doesn't have to be just the veteran. It could be a family member that wants to come in and ask me questions about the service, or actually being a military spouse, because I've had both of those hats on.
Okay, Mike, I'm going to wrap it up with you. Final thoughts this morning about Veterans Day today and in the future.
I think things today are better than they have ever been in the past. I had a break in service in 1993 where I got out of the service for a little while trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and the support system that I received in 1993 versus the support system I received in 2007 when I retired were two diametrically opposite. There was no support system in 93, and this was after the Gulf War, and even on up into the early 2000s. The support system was still developing. We have a support system now that just really does help veterans, and I think that should be continued and expanded upon a little bit. These vets come out and they go from an environment of everyone around them have all experienced the same thing. There's a common core there. There's a brotherhood, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're home. Yeah. And they're surrounded by people who don't understand what they've gone through and what they've been through. That's where we have to take the most care and provide that care for those vets, especially the ones that are in danger. Our suicide rates have skyrocketed over the last decade. Unemployment rates for veterans has been they have gotten better, much better. There have been some state programs and federal programs that have assisted with that, and I want to see those continue. As an individual, every single day, go out there, try and educate your peers, your fellow citizens on exactly what this nation means.
I want to say thank you very much to Georgia and Mike Greenwell. Thank you. I want to say thank you to Marv Hagedorn. Good luck on the next election. I want to say special thanks to J.R. Strunk. J.R., you're awful special. Remember, rev up that Harley. And out in the other room, my dear friend George Mass. It's been our tribute to the military and Veterans Day. And right now, before I wrap things up, I want to remind you about our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you to get ready for winter driving. Don't forget all the tires for your cars, your pickups, your SUVs, all the different tread designs, and believe me, they know which would best fit your driving this winter on your vehicle. So be sure and stop in and check it out today, along with all the tire chains, the greatest in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries. Oh, you'd better have a good battery in these colder days ahead. Stop in at any one of the 7 locations, Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and my buddy Randy on Overland and Burley. Absolutely the best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Don't forget, tomorrow morning we'll ride the horse again for 3 hours, starting at 8:06 right here on K-Bar, 12:30 a.m., and then streaming live all over the world on ZebBell.com. And we always say, along with a great thank you to our veterans, God bless you all, and remember, the way things were are the way things ought to be. See you tomorrow morning at 8:06.